Hi, welcome to another Pimp Me Shoot series. This time it's on the GSG-16 and I have 4 handguards, 3 stocks, so that makes 12 different ways or 12 different combinations you could arrange, and I'll go through each of them. But before I do that, I want to talk about the MP5 pins. These set of 3 cost me $4 US. These 4 cost me about $6 to $7 US. Both are metal alloy, but these ones are much better quality than these ones. As you can see, the spring is a lot thicker, less chance of failure. These already failed on me a couple of times, and also the head, as you can see, it's a lot wider. However, these 3 comes in different sizes. This is for the fixed stock, this is for the receiver, and this is supposed to be for the handguard, but it's a bit small. These 4 are all made for the receiver. So I'll use one of them to replace the screw type that came with the GSG-16. Okay, why don't we start with the handguard first? I'm going to start off with the SRC triangular handguard. Cost me $11 US. No mod is needed. You just slip it in, back in first, and I'm going to use, because this is a bit small, I'm going to use the receiver pin to hold it in. And okay, and for the stock, I'm going to start off with a light retractable stock, and it's made by Golden Eagle, cost $12 US, and it comes with a swivel that's supposed to go on the left side, but it's a pain in the ass to use, so I'm just gonna remove it. It's hard, it's very difficult to install. This light retractable stock, the rails or these rails are made out of metal alloy. The rest is plastic. The locking mechanism is on the bottom, like the MP5. There's a slight mod you need to make to put this on your 16, and basically the holes doesn't quite line up, so I had to use a round file and expand the hole towards the top. So this is what it's going to look like. Just slide it in. Like this. Okay. And it's going to be a little stiff, pushing the remaining 3/4 of an inch. So you just push it in like that. And then use one of the receiver pin and squeeze it in, and there you go. Now you'll notice that the right rail is a little bit long, and it's basically encroached into the exit port of the ejection for the round. So yeah, so you could cut this off if you want, or you can, if you don't ever shoot it with this thing folded, then you don't need to cut it. Okay, so that is the first way. It's the triangular stock with the light retractable stock. I'm going to remove this. Those pins makes changing the rear stock very easy. So I remove that, and I'm going to replace it with the second combination. This retractable stock is made by CYMA, and it only costs $10 US. It's a heavy duty. It has thick rubber padding. It has a place for the swivel, and again the side rails are made by a metal alloy, compared to the 16 rails are made of plastic. The locking mechanism is at the bottom, like the MP5. For $10, this is a pretty darn good deal. Okay, pretty sturdy too, right? Okay, this also requires a slight mod. You have to expand the hole on the right side. Basically use a round file and expand it. And you slip the rails in. Right in there, and then you use one of these receiver and you slide it in like that. Pretty good for $10. Okay. Now the last stock is a fixed stock. It's also made by CYMA. It costs $15 US. And it comes with a pin. Now this requires fair amount of filing. Basically, you have to file over here to make sure it matches, and you may even have to file the inside to get it to fit properly. Okay, so this goes in like that. Turn upside down and push it in like that. Take the pin that came with it, good quality pin, and slide it in. There. Quite a good quality for $15, if you ask me. It's very strong, and it also has a nice little feature in the back stock. And what you do is, let me see, you have to, there's a little sign here on the right side, and it says push down to open. So you go like that, and then the butt plate comes off. The butt plate has a rubber padding on it, very nice feature. Okay, and this is what it looks inside. You could put a spare mag in. Okay, now I presume because, oh, there it is. It goes in that way. And then you take the butt plate and push it in, and then push it up. Nice, very nice feature, if you ask me, for $15 US. And of course, there's a place for the sling. Excellent. Okay, I'm getting that. Yep, got it out. Okay, now done the 3 stocks. Now I'm gonna change the front handguard to a lighted handguard. This cost $20, and it's I don't think there's a name I have who made it, but it's $20. It is of not a very good quality. As you can see, there's holes on the side. This is a switch. The batteries goes in here, and it takes 2 batteries. Right, like that, 2 batteries. And you screw back in. The light is non-LED, just a plain incandescent tiny light bulb. And the thickness of the plastic is below 3 millimeter. So, but you know, what do you expect for 20 bucks? I will now remove the triangular handguard and now slip on I'm going to check to see, oh, okay, it's a little, it's actually firmer than the triangular handguard. Triangular handguard is way too much movement for my liking, and this is, there is some slight movement, but not bad for $20 worth of light. And this is what the 4th way looks like. Okay, you're supposed to grip it like this and turn on the switch. Like that. Okay, this is what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to switch the fixed stock out. I'm going to put the heavy duty stock in, just to give you an idea what it looks like with the flashlight handguard. Pushing this down. Okay, I'm going to try to save some time by not putting the pin in, but this is what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to put the light retractable stock now. There, this is what it looks like with the light retractable stock, with the flashlight. Okay. Now, I need to point out that I also have a flashlight made by G&P. Now, this costs twice as much as this. It's $40 US, but it's really well made. The thickness of the plastic is more than 3 millimeter, about 3¼ millimeter. And there's no fault. Everything looks fantastic. Okay, that's the switch. I don't have any batteries in there because they're in here. And it's LED light. So this is much better quality for $40. You can tell it's better made, thicker plastic. Unfortunately, it is not a good fit because of the fake suppressor. It rubs against the fake suppressor. So I would not consider this a good fit with this. I would actually say that if you're thinking of putting a 9-inch barrel, then this would be perfect for that. But otherwise, for the regular fake suppressor, no, it is, as you can see, it is rubbing right up against the fake suppressor. Okay, so no, I would say that's not a good fit. And because it's rubbing against there, I can't really tell whether it moves or not, but with the way it is right now, it is pretty solid in there. So yeah, this is not a good fit with this fake suppressor, but a 9-inch barrel, this is perfect. LED light. Okay, the next handguard is a handguard made by a 3D printer. This handguard belonged to a friend of mine who visited me over the holiday, and he left this behind because when he switched over to the conversion kit, this handguard works in conjunction with the old 16 handguard, and he didn't have a way to secure the front of the handguard. Okay, there's screws for the back of the 16 handguard, but there's nothing holding the front, and so he couldn't figure out how to do it. So he brought it with him, and he left it, and he just left that for me to figure out how I could reuse this. Yeah, the way this was designed, it has 3 grooves, and they go right over these screw mounts. The mounting screws goes right into them, and because they are a tight fit like that, and then there's 2 screws that hold the 16 handguard with the 3D printer handguard. This is made out of plastic. The original ones are made out of rubber. The MP5 SD handguard made out of rubber. And so I have figured out a way to attach this to this. Okay. Now, if you were going to design a SD handguard on your 3D printer, I would suggest not making the groove. Make it straight across, okay? In other words, make it as wide as this. So therefore, you would be able to, it would be a lot easier, the way I have it, if this was wider. And beside, the real MP5 handguard is actually wider than this, okay? And now, because I want to reuse this, I have to find a way to attach the front of this to the rifle. And I did it with a 1/2-inch copper band. Okay, I drilled a hole, and I put in a 440 screw right through it, and then I soldered the nut on this side. I soldered it all in so it wouldn't move. That's what I did. Okay, take a better look. 1/2-inch round copper pipe. I drilled a hole in the metal. I slipped a 440 screw through the hole. The head is on the inside, and then I tightened it with a nut, and then I soldered the whole thing together so it wouldn't slip. Now, I've taken an old 16 handguard, and there was a little bump here similar to this one over here. I cut it flat because I need some room for a nut. So I had to slip this in, and I'm gonna put this screw through this hole right here, the one on the right, to my right. So let's see if I can do that without any problem. Oh. Okay, I'm just going to point this. I'm going to use a flashlight because I can't really see. So now I'm going to have to wiggle that in, make sure. Yeah, it's a little tricky. Okay, I got it in. Now, I took the 440 nut, I beveled the edges, and I'm going to put it right over the screw. The reason why I use the 440 screw and nut is because it has to be small. Okay. Now try not to over tighten. Okay. Because if you over tighten, you're gonna, I believe it might bend the barrel. So that's it. Okay. Now you're gonna slip. This buddy of mine, he bought this, as I mentioned in the earlier video, he bought this online. Oh, before I do that, before I slip this on, you need to remove this swivel. Okay, the swivel is in the way. You can't slip the SD handguard. Okay, that's there. You're gonna remove this out, and now you can slide this in. And you got to turn this, make sure the sides are straight, pointing forward. Ah, there it is. It's going in. There it is. Now I'm gonna have to screw these two holes in. Okay, I'm not going to screw it all the way in, but you get the idea of what it looks like. Okay. Now, once I did that, and I looked at the fake suppressor, it looked rather skinny, and I didn't like that at all. This is with the light retractable stock. So what I did is make a sleeve out of ABS. This is about 30 millimeter wide. This is now 40 millimeter wide. And if you're interested in how I'm making this sleeve, stay on this video. I attached it to the end, and it's actually quite simple. Okay, so what it goes like this. There it is. It slides right in. It goes right underneath the SD 3D printer handguard. Looks pretty good, eh? Okay, now I'm gonna slip out the light retractable stock. I'm gonna put the heavy duty retractable stock and give you guys an idea what it looks like. Again, I'm not gonna put the pin in. I don't want to waste too much time removing. Okay, no, this is having a little hard time going in. There it is. Okay, this is with the heavy duty retractable stock. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna remove that. And now I'm gonna put the fixed stock. Oh, there it is. Yep. Yep, there it is. This is the SD model. That's the front. Okay. This handguard is made by a 3D printer, but I have made one out of ABS plastic. It's a plumbing pipe. So I'm going to remove this and I'll show you what SD handguard I hacked out of an ABS pipe. So you take that, remove it, and this is what I made from a 1.5" ABS plastic plumbing pipe. It is bigger than the 3D printer one, and that is because it actually goes over these screw mounts. Okay, so that's why it is bigger. Let me see if I got this right, and I'm going to slip this in. Okay, and I'm going to spread these so we'll go over those things like this. It's a little tricky because of all the vent holes are drilled, but here it is. Okay, now I'm gonna screw. I need a flashlight to see where the holes are, and it's right about here. This is where okay, I'm just gonna screw one of the holes instead of two, and this is what a hacked SD handguard looks like, with a fake suppressor sleeve added on. It looks much better with a thicker fake suppressor. Doesn't this look great? Now, of course, whenever you use an SD handguard, to clear the handguard you need a SD caulking handle. So that's what I did. Now, if you're interested in how I made this from a 1.5" ABS pipe, I attached that at the end of the video. Okay, so let's carry on and let's change from a fixed stock. Let me pull this out and put a heavy duty there you go. This is what the hacked SD handguard looks like with a heavy-duty retractable stock and a thicker fake suppressor. And now I'm going to switch the heavy-duty to a light retractable stock. Okay, there it is. Great, isn't it? I really like these vent holes I made. The thicker fake suppressor. And by the way, if you're interested in how I made this, which no see-through mag, I also attached that at the end of the video. Okay, yeah, this is fantastic. This is great. So there you have it. This is how the 12 different ways to pimp your GSG-16. Thank you very much for joining me, and please subscribe. Oh, by the way, if you make a hacked SD handguard out of ABS pipe, and you can make it this size, you don't need to make such a complicated adapter to attach the 16 handguard. All you need is to go to Home Depot and buy yourself an eye screw like this, and of course this will be smaller hole, and what you would do is get a punch like this, put it in between, and start hammering it till this becomes big enough to slide over the barrel like this. Okay, and then of course then attach a nut, this is a lot easier to do than this. This is rather complicated. And then take the 16 handguard, drill a bigger hole, okay, and it wouldn't matter if your nut is this big, because the ABS handguard, hacked handguard, slides right over it, and there's a gap big enough to accommodate for that nut. Another thing I need to point out is that once this is all done and set in place, I would put crazy glue in here to hold these two together permanently. Okay, so that's basically what I need to tell you. Okay, this is the rail delete hacked from this 1.5" ABS pipe. This is the rail delete, and this ABS pipe, I'm gonna make it wider by boiling it in water. And I'm gonna let it sit here for about 10 minutes before I try to widen it. Okay, I boiled the handguard, or the hack handguard, for about 5 minutes, and then I used a spatula and I spread the I guess the thing apart, and then I took the same size 1.5" pipe and I inserted it in like this, and now I'm going to boil it and make sure the handguard, the hack handguard, will shrink onto that size. Okay, I boiled it for another 5 minutes, just to make sure that the hack handguard shrinks into the inner pipe. I'm just going to make sure it's nice and flat. There's no, that it's shrunk onto the, yep, it has. Okay, I took the hacked handguard out of the mold, which was inserted in here, and I'm going to test it out to see if it fits into this handguard, the M-lock, and it's a bit wide, so I need to shrink this up a little bit more. So I'm going to put this back in the hot water just for a few minutes, and just to make sure that it just closes it up a little bit,
just enough to slide right in, like this. Right now it's a little bit loose, so if I could just tighten this up a bit more, like maybe about half an inch, that should be good. Okay, this is nice and hot. Let's see if it closed up a little bit more, and it did. Now this is perfect. See, very little movement. Very little movement. I'm going to lock it in by dousing cold water on it. Okay. I'll lock the shape in. And yes, this is what I've been looking for. See? Ah, perfect fit. Okay. Next, I'll drill some vent holes, and then I'll just finish off the exterior. Okay, now that I got the hacked handguard fitted onto the 16 handguard, make sure it's nice and centered and aligned towards the back. Okay, you'll find there's two pairs of holes in the front and in the back. What you need to do is mark the hole that's to the front. In other words, the pair you want to drill the left hole to my left on both pairs. Okay, and to do that, get yourself a flooring nail, which is long and made out of steel. Cut the head off and place it on a drill. Okay, and then of the pair holes, stick it into the left hole. Now you don't want to use a drill bit because the drill bit would chew into the plastic. You don't want that. You're just using this to mark it. Okay, and push it in the hole. Okay, and you're doing the same for this pair. You're looking for the left hole. Okay, now I removed the 16 handguard and it's been marked. Now I can use a proper drill, and I used a 764 to drill the hole all the way through. Make sure it passes the the vise, and then you can just put in that mark that was left by the nail and go right through. And the same thing for the front hole. Make sure it passes the vise. And there, those are the two holes, and they should line up with this. I'm going to countersink it. Okay, I'm finished drilling the vents for the hack handguard. I chose a different pattern than the one I used for the Type 81 rifle. It's an offset pattern. The hole size is the same, 9/32. And I slipped in a 16 handguard inside the hack handguard. This is the front. This is the right side, the left side, the back side, the bottom. And you'll note I did countersink the two holes where the screw goes into, but I didn't have the proper countersink drill bit, so I end up using a stone. Do not use a drill bit to countersink. And then I used a 400 grit paper, and I lightly sanded the surface. Now once this was done, I put the fake suppressor in front of it, and it looked rather small, kind of out of place. So I decided to beef this up by making a sleeve also out of ABS, but unlike this handguard, which was made by 1.5 inch ABS, I'm going to use an 1.25 inch ABS, like this.
and with an inch and a quarter ABS, I removed a 10 millimeter wide strip from it, and I boiled this in a frying pan, a deep frying pan full of water. I boiled it between 5 and 10 minutes, and I used a spatula and I rolled it while it was in the boiling water. And then when I removed it, I slipped the fake handguard in, and I used these clamps, 3 of them, one here, one in the middle, and one to the end, and I clamped it down. Snug, not too tight. And as you can see, the seams are very close to each other. Now once it's cooled, I slip this and the fake suppressor in, and I had to cut a piece of square from here so it will fit around the front sight. Right there. And then I'd drill a hole at the bottom so I can have access to the set screw. For aesthetic reasons, I use the cutter and I put a groove about an inch from the back and a groove about half an inch from the front. Okay. And then this too, I used the 400 grit sandpaper, lightly sanded the surface. I will then use solvent to clean the surface of both of these, and then I'm ready to spray paint. Oh, I forgot to mention the width of this sleeve for the fake suppressor is 225 millimeters. Okay, so now I'm ready to go spray paint. Okay, to modify the GSG-16 mag, you need an airsoft mag. Make sure it's the steel casing type and not the plastic type. Remove the guts, and then with a tin snip, cut the right side front edge. Starting from the bottom, go all the way to the top. This small piece will fall off. And then you can wiggle and snap off the 4 spot welds that held the 2 halves together. You then need to cut a small piece off the bottom and a larger piece off the top, because the small piece has indents and cutouts, and you don't want that. And of course, the top piece won't fit into the receiver, so you need to cut that out too. With the mag, remove the bottom cap by unscrewing, and the spring will come out. And then, now you want to retain the BHO. The BHO is on the left side. Also, you can use that same BHO as a feeding tab. So you want to retain the feeding tab and the BHO. So, remove the tab, the feeding tab on the right side, put a small washer and put the nut that was on the right side back on, like this. Okay? Actually, it moves a little smoother than before because the washer, less resistance with the washer. Okay, and also you need to remove little pieces over here because it has to match this groove, and this groove needs to go all the way down to where the base is, right about there. And that's why you need to remove some of the plastic that's over here. Okay, so what are you going to do next after you separated the 2 halves is to cut this top piece off. And to do that, you have to put the mag, the 16 mag back in the receiver, and make sure that you're extending this a little further out, because you need to get this angle correct by measuring it from the bottom to make sure everything is straight. And then you can also put this piece and eyeball it to make sure that this line that you're cutting is the same line of the receiver mag, like that. Okay, once this is cut straight and you're happy with it, then you can deal with the bottom. And the bottom has to be also, it's a lot easier because when you still have this piece attached, okay, what you do is then on the reverse side, just score a line where the bottom of the mag is, and then account for the base cap of the mag. Account for the difference, and then cut it straight. Okay, account for this little, this is where the cap goes. So you need to, oh, I lost the cap. You need to account for that difference where the cap goes. Okay, I'm done with modifying the mag. I touched up the edges with paint. This is the front. This is the top. This is the back side. This is the bottom. And I glued the airsoft casing. The airsoft mag cost me $6 only, $6 US. And I use super glue from Dollar Tree, only cost me $1.25. And this stuff really works. And should you get any of the glue on the surface, you have to use acetone to remove it. You can't use solvent. And I like to point out that when you're cutting the top and the bottom, you have to use the Dremel. And for the side, you can use best to use a tin snip. The left side still retains the BHO feature and the feeding tab. And when you use the small washer, make sure you're using the smooth side and not the rough side. Bevel the nut like I did, and also use Loctite on the nut. And then you're done. The idea of making it non-see-through came from my SGG-4422. As you can see, it's a non-see-through, has a feeding tab, the BHO feature, all on one side, and on the other side looks pretty normal.